Black people ain't moving forward.
We have been declining since the 19th season. Every major statistic. We are not moving forward. Do not let him tell you that lie.
Wait. Hold on, Katrina.
Are your kids in public
Mike
school
has been
or
sitting here listening to all of y'all talk. Mike, go ahead, brother. Brother, go ahead.
Niggas.
Go ahead.
Niggas. Nigga. Stop it. Stop. Everybody hush. Hush. And listen. Because I'm about to give you the secret to what the fuck y'all are witnessing. What you niggas, N-E-G-U-S, of the royal kind, and niggas, N-I-double-G-S, what y'all are seeing right now are free people arguing over who got the best master. Oh yeah. So, this is my thought. I don't care if you destroy the Republican or Democratic Party, because at one time, blacks were Republicans. And you dominated those 7 years after the Civil War. You were Republicans. You had more blacks in the House and Senate than you do now, and you dominated your own economic communities. You did that as Republicans. As Democrats, you did the same in cities like Atlanta. You failed in other cities. But the most important thing is self-organizing. By the time we get to a candidate, we should have a list that says white man, white woman, these are our demands. You can meet them and get our vote, or not, and we're going to stay home and crochet and make collard greens. But what you cannot do is continue to argue over who is the best master. I don't give a fuck if it's Trump, Obama, your mama, my mama. What the fuck do you have for me and my community?
This traction video will take you through a 3-step cognitive-based process: education, self-reflection, and application. The benefits of this therapeutic approach are the following. 1. It begins where you are, respecting and accepting you for your unique perspectives. 2. There is no blaming, shaming, finger-pointing, or use of morality or judgment. And 3, it will assist you in finding an authentic solution as it pertains to strengthening your voting power. Step 1. Education. States have all powers not granted to the federal government by the Constitution. These powers have taken many different forms. States must take responsibility for areas such as ownership of property, education of inhabitants, implementation of welfare and other benefits programs, protecting people from local threats, maintaining a justice system, setting up local governments such as counties and municipalities, maintaining state highways and setting up the means of administrating local roads, regulation of industry, and raising funds to support their activities. Next, there are the key elected state-level government officials. The governor, the state's chief executive. The lieutenant governor succeeds the governor in office and presides over the Senate. Secretary of State takes care of public records and documents, also may have many other responsibilities. Attorney General, responsible for representing the state in all court cases. Auditor, Make sure that the public money has been spent legally. Treasurer invests and pays out state funds. Superintendent of Public Instruction heads State Department of Education. Supreme Court Justices, highest authority on state law. And state legislators. They create state laws. You will note in the following organizational charts that all of these elected positions and officials work for the people of the state they serve. That is why they are listed at the top of the organizational chart. Local government refers to governmental jurisdictions below the level of the state. Most states have at least 2 tiers of local government: counties and municipalities. In some states, counties are divided into townships. There are several different types of jurisdictions at the municipal level, including the city, town, parish, borough, village, reservations, and boundaries. The types and nature of these municipal entities varies from state to state. The black vote. The relationship between state and local government and race significantly weakens the black vote. There are many written works, such as this one by author Varlic Hicks, that identify tactics past and present used by our government to disenfranchise black folks. State and local tax policies interact with this severe inequality in important ways. Revenues raised through taxes are vital to funding public investments in education, health, and the safety net, all of which help combat inequality. But some state tax systems exacerbate racial income inequality by taxing low-income people, a disproportionate share of whom are categorized as people of color, at higher rates than other families. Such regressive tax structures can make racial income inequality worse as incomes become more unequal after state and local taxes. In a recent work titled The Whiteness of Wealth by Dorothy A. Brown, she excellently illustrates the impact of the negative relationship between government and race.
Dorothy, in your book, you write this: it's long been understood that blacks and whites live in separate and unequal worlds that shape whom we marry, where we buy a home, whom we have as neighbors, and how we build a future for our children. Race affects where we go to college and how we pay for it. Race influences where we work and how much we are paid. What my research showed was that all of this also determines how much we pay in taxes. Taxpayers bring their racial identities to their tax returns. As in so many parts of American life, being black is more likely to hurt and being white is more likely to help. The implications of this go far beyond the forms you file every April. So if you could take us a step further into that notion, is it the reality of black American life that then puts them in tax categories that appear to be racist or work against black Americans? Or is there something different at play?
What's at play is tax policy is built around white American behavior. And black Americans in a society where we face systemic racism, we get disadvantaged. So let me take home ownership as an example. Any tax subsidy for home ownership is going to benefit most homeowners who are disproportionately white. We have fewer Black homeowners. So that's one point. But a bigger point is how white Americans experience homeownership is what tax policy subsidizes, not how Black homeowners experience homeownership. So what my research showed is when Black and white Americans did the same thing, got married, bought a home, tax policy choices advantaged how white Americans were homeowners or how white Americans were married versus how Black Americans experienced homeownership and marriage.
Another practice of state and local government is that of redistricting. There are about 12 congressional maps currently in litigation that could impact the 2024 elections. Of those dozen cases, half are in states where state legislatures, controlled by Republicans, are accused of redrawing maps to dilute the concentration of Black Americans in certain districts, also known as racial gerrymandering. Racial gerrymandering is an illegal practice of drawing electoral district lines to deliberately suppress the voting power of Black and other racial minority groups. These maps, which stay in place for 10 years until the next time the U.S. Census is conducted, will hold significant weight in the balance of political power in Washington. In step 1, we educated ourselves on the basics of state and local government. We then learned how race is being strategically used against the interests of the Black racial demographic. Step 1 was education. Step 2 is self-reflection, beginning with our identity.
You have said that you resent the idea of being called an African American, that
Yes.
you are a Black American.
Yes.
Explain.
I think that when they call Black people who were born and raised for generations in this country, if you accept the handle of African American, that says that you don't accept being an American American. You don't accept being born in Chicago or New York or Detroit or wherever you were born. For generations, your family has been here, you know? Built this country too. Sweat and tears and all that, you know, fought in every war, okay? So this is my country here. So I don't want to be called African American. I'm an American American. My people have died and done everything for this country.
Yeah, the book is called Mixed Meat, and there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this new book. Tell us about it.
My son is mixed. He is half white and half Black. And this book is inspired by my son. It's about a little mixed boy who is half Black and half white, and he goes throughout the book explaining to people that he's both and that he's proud, he loves his mom, he loves his dad. And the book is for self-empowerment, self-esteem, self-love.
Right.
That's what the book is about. That's what it stands for. That's the message. So it came back to me that people were interpreting the book as me saying that I didn't want my son to be Black, that, I mean, some really interesting things, that I was ashamed to be Black, that I hoped, you know, my son was more white so that he would just some crazy stuff, really, really crazy stuff. And it took me aback. It really did, only because this book is promoting, you know, a lot of positive things.
Would you argue that Johnson is a slave name?
Absolutely.
I ask this particularly because a lot of Black Americans still to this day carry their previous slave owners.
Don't say Black American, say American African.
American African.
Yes, sir.
You do know that a lot of African Americans don't like that term.
Well, they use African American. We're comfortable with African American.
Yeah.
But I prefer American African.
Okay.
Because we are not Americans, never have never been treated as such.
Yeah.
And the adjective precedes the noun. So when you say African American, you're describing a type of an American.
Okay.
We're not Americans. When you say American African, you're describing a type of an African. So that's why we say American African. American simply describes the African.
Yeah.
Versus African describing the American. We are Africans in an American context.
I hear you.
But when you say Black American, just to give you some clarity,
yeah,
it wasn't until recently that the United States government has reverted to referring to us as Black American. Since the 1980s, they referred to us as African American, which I don't agree with because I prefer American African, but they've started using Black American again instead of African American, which is a deliberate attempt to cut us off from our African consciousness.
Yeah.
And it is also a strategy to try to distract away from the current argument by your American African brothers and sisters for reparations and restitutions due to slavery.
Historically speaking, since the inception of our ancestors forcibly brought to this country, our community identity has always been in crisis. Culturally, we originally identified tribally from the varying cultures on the continent of Africa. The European thought it psychologically effective for his exploitative needs of free physical labor to label us by color. At that time, it was Negro, Spanish for black, which after a few derivatives of the N-word, we moved to colored, then black. Next, thanks to the Reverend Jesse Jackson, African American was introduced at a December news conference in Chicago, where 75 black groups convened to discuss the Black Agenda. He asserted the following: to be called African Americans has cultural integrity. It puts us in our proper historical context. Every ethnic group in this country has a reference to some land base, some historical cultural base. African Americans have hit that level of cultural maturity. There are Armenian Americans, Jewish Americans, Arab Americans, and Italian Americans, and with a degree of accepted and reasonable pride. They connect their heritage to their mother country and where they are now. Our lack of collectivity, consistency, and respect in our community for our identity has resulted in our valuing other identities more, to include political, religious, and socioeconomic identities, to name a few. In step 1, we were educated on the workings of state and local government. In step 2, we were challenged to self-reflect on our own self-identity and how we view ourselves as a collective, a community, and a political group. In step 3, we are now going to apply the knowledge and insights from the first 2 steps toward the goal of empowering the black vote. Knowledge itself is not power. Application of knowledge is power. welcome Dr. Claude Anderson, President of Powernomics Corporation of America, Inc., and the Harvest Institute, Inc. Powernomics is a company that publishes his books and produces the multimedia presentations in which he explains his concept, Powernomics. Powernomics is a package of principles and strategies that explain race and offer a guide for Black America to become a more self-sufficient and economically competitive group in America. Listen to the following brief presentation titled, The 5 Areas to Control.
Trust. They don't trust each other. You can't trust each other if you don't have a community. A community comes first. Once you get a community and you get to know people, then you move up to the next level, you trust them. Once you learn how to trust people, then you move up to the 3rd level, you begin to cooperate with them. And once you learn how to cooperate with them, then you get to the 4th level, you start to hold them accountable for what they're doing wrong. The same thing in business. In business, if you're building a business operation, and competitiveness and Powernomics is a 5-story building. The first thing you all should be doing, as I said, get you some institutions like the Chamber and started teaching, acquiring wealth and power through operating businesses. If you build an economy, that's a 5-story building. The first floor must always be economics. Always build an economy before you do everything else. The first floor is the economy. The 2nd floor is politics. The 3rd floor is the court and police departments, the enforcement system. The 4th floor is the media. The 5th floor is schools. Now again, you've been bamboozled on that because they keep telling you that if you go to send Black folks to school, jump to the 5th floor and try to come back down. Education can't do nothing. Education is just a tool. You start with your economy. Once you build an economy, a viable, competitive economy, by making your money circulate 8 to 12 times, you take that money and you move to the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor is your politicians. Don't worry about vote. You don't have to vote. People that got money, whether it's organized crime or wealthy people, they don't have to vote. You take your money on the 1st floor and you buy every politician on the 2nd floor. If you can't buy them, you rent or lease them. And once you rent or lease those politicians or buy them on the 2nd floor, you hold them accountable to go to the 3rd floor. And you stop the police from shooting and killing Black folk all the time. And come up with new codes of conduct. Then once you get to the 3rd floor and get the police and court system straight, because you can now effectuate it, then you go to the 4th floor. The 4th floor means media. You cannot own television stations, radio stations, and daily newspapers if you don't have an economy. I hear Black folk crying all the time. I have 2 radio stations. I used to have 4. You cannot have a media operation unless you have an economy. Who's going to buy your time, your ads? You got to have an economy to buy the time. And so you got it. Right now we have 12,000 radio stations in the United States. We got about 12,000 cable systems, 5,000 daily newspapers, 5,000 TV stations, Black folk stations. Black folk own 35 thousandths of 1%. You can't even communicate. You can't communicate, you can't organize. You can't get communication because you don't have an economy. And once you get enough money, you put your medium up at the 4th floor. Then lastly, you tell the 5th floor, which is a school system, say, here's what we want. We don't want any more Black basketball players and football players. Every Black right now, a successful Black, has got some kind of an illicit relationship with a ball. He's either running with a tennis ball, basketball, golf ball, football, sending on jokes, telling jokes, pretending he's having a ball. Just get away from that. And say from now on, you try to raise kids that can produce something. The producers will be the people survive. Right now, Black folk are 0 producers and 100% consumers. You're going to get totally wiped out in this country and wiped off the face of the earth under globalization if you don't learn how to produce vertically. You produce something at the bottom level, then you go up and you have other Blacks coming over you. Like I'm producing fish, 1 million pounds of fish a year, I want Blacks to come in and warehouse, wholesale, distributor, then retail. I want to see some Black lobster restaurants in the country. And you build, and I got about 2 more minutes I got. Now, and you build these vertical orders based on your competitive advantages. Build your businesses where you have a competitive advantage. What are your competitive advantages, Black folk? Always build your business where you dominate in population or you dominate in spending patterns. I built the seafood factories. Why? Because blacks eat 3 to 4 times more seafood than whites, and you spend $9 for every $1 whites spend. You should be controlling the seafood industry. Do the same thing with leather. You do the same thing with your hair. Right now, blacks are the only people got a certain quality of hair, and yet the Koreans are controlling black hair care in America. And you watch you build these businesses like the difference between Detroit and Chinatown. You got in New York. In Chinatown, New York, they got about a little less than 300,000 Chinese there. And in Detroit, you had almost a million blacks. I looked at the two and compared them. In Chinatown, they had 35 banks, 35 Asian banks. In Detroit, they got 2 black banks, and that's owned by the same one. How is it that almost a million people don't have 2 banks and 300,000 will have 35 banks? I looked at the number of restaurants. The Asians had almost 400-some restaurants in New York. Black folk in Detroit had 3. I looked at and I said, how do these Asians producing so well and have so much? And Asians have the highest median family income in America. Here's what they do in conclusion. They build around their advantage. What is it that Asians eat the most of? They eat noodles. I went and found something like about 100 and some noodle factories in New York where they produce their own noodles. Now, once they produce the noodles, what do you put on the noodles? They put a sauce on the noodles. I found about another 60 or 70 companies that produce the sauce to go on the noodles. And I said, what else they producing? Then I found that they had, I don't know how many, 35 or 40 companies that make the little fortune cookies. They take care of their own people. That's why you'll never see Asians, Arabs, Hispanic, or American Indians out marching for integration or for social civil rights. They don't do it. They build businesses. I love you all. Take care.
You have taken the training. Now it's time to put it into action. Here is your traction list. After viewing this video, you will participate in the following written activities. The Racial Intelligence Assessment. The objective? To be properly educated on race and the political strategies it is used for. The Cultural Trust Survey. The objective? To build a collective sense of community identity. Questions from the National Survey of Black America. The objective? To assist in the forming of a collective political agenda. These exercises may be done individually or as a group. You are encouraged to do this in a group format for the interaction, challenging of thought, and forming of strategies. Lastly, leave with this seed of thought in mind. There is an African philosophy that represents the essence of who we are as a collective culture, not race. Ubuntu. I am because we are.